I got a doctorate of the streets. Now, getting to talk to my old guitar instructor from GIT, Richard Smith. The interview is on my channel. It's an amazing interview with a guy who I hadn't seen in like 40 years. And he is head of the guitar department at the University of Southern California. And I was telling him about some of my experiences in the interview. And he said, well, what you've done is you've gotten a doctorate of the streets. We have all seen, older musicians getting awards from universities, getting honorary doctorates, getting honorary masters, getting these awards. And maybe these people weren't able to attend school. Maybe these people just went right out on the streets and started making the best of it. But what you do when look, I am a college dropout. I dropped out after 2 years. I went to GIT for 1 year after that. And I've never been back to school. I don't have a degree. I have a certificate in jazz fusion guitar from GIT. And that will basically get you nothing. That will basically get you a job, at Publix or Walmart. It's meaningless. It's meaningless. But it was some of the greatest education as far as guitar playing goes at that time. So it was well worth the year spent, but I don't have anything on paper that's going to guarantee me a job. I just had to go, figure it out. And when you're a young kid, that's exactly what you do. You have to figure out who's bad, who's good, who wants to help you, who wants to screw you over. And you have to have a little bit of, shall we say, trust in the process. And you have to, strive to try to make something happen. And, for me, going from a small town to Los Angeles, playing the Sunset Strip, that's one whole educational experience right there. Then moving to Nashville and doing all that stuff. There's so many things that I learned by doing it that many of the guys that stayed in school for 4 years and then another, 2 years for master's, and then another 2 years or more for a doctorate. And yet maybe they haven't played a gig, or they haven't figured out what they want to do, or they don't understand, what to do if they were on a tour bus. And there's so many things that you can learn by just getting out there and do it. There's guys playing 7 nights a week in Nashville, and they only know their cowboy chords. That's all they know. And there's something to consider about that. I think, my mom would have been much happier if I had graduated from college. But I could honestly see that getting a degree in music just wasn't going to guarantee that anything was going to happen. Maybe if I'd have gotten it from North Texas State or USC, maybe if I'd have gotten something there, maybe I would have gone into a more elevated form of work and not been kind of on the street level to get my street doctorate. But, there's something about life of banging around and falling flat on your you-know-what and trying to figure it out, trying to figure out what you need to do to make it. Everybody's path is different. So I'm going to say this right now, early in the conversation. If you're like me and you've been playing music all this time, then you probably have a street master or a street doctorate yourself. Because just surviving and learning what you need to do to play music for a career, learning how to survive, learning how to, all of these things that you learn, so many things that, man, I would feel no problem going in, doing a seminar with no notes and talking about, the music business. It's a lot like what we have here on this channel. These are stream of consciousness videos. Every now and then you'll see I'll have some notes and I'll have some topics that I want to cover and some lines that I want to say. But, videos like this are just raw emotion. It's reflecting on a life in the music business and so many lessons that you learn. Nobody will tell you at school that, how to call somebody and say, hey, I need to get paid. They don't teach you how to navigate, dealing with an irate club owner at the end of the night who says, you did this, or you didn't play long enough, or, any number of things that can come up. But you certainly learn these things by doing them. And if you just focus on the playing alone, if I said, I'm not going to get out of school till I can play every scale there is and every interval of the scale on guitar. And once I learn that, then I can be a professional guitarist. That's not what it is at all. Man, there were some amazing players at GIT, and there were guys that could play all of that stuff and play the head to every jazz tune and play, the intervals of every scale and every amalgamation and all that. But there's only one Frank Mbali. There's only one Scott Henderson. And I wonder what happened to some of those other guys that were equally talented. But, where are they now? Where did they go? And, I can't help but think, man, it's a lot more than just that. It's a lot more than just chops. It's a lot more, focusing on relationships and establishing friendships with people that trust you, that people that know that if they call you for a gig, that you're going to show up, that you're going to learn your parts, that your gear's going to work, that your guitar's going to stay in tune, all of those things. And that's more than no one has ever said on a gig, play the third mode of melodic minor in fifths, please. No one has ever said anything like that. And if you're in Nashville, I've almost never had to read a, what do they call it? Fly specs on the page, a single note phrase. I've almost never, ever had to sight read anything. So if you're spending, you're waiting till you're an amazing sight reader before you start your work, maybe you're waiting too long, because I honestly feel that maybe my 2 years in college, maybe I should have just gone out and gotten my street doctorate and gone straight to the Sunset Strip when I was 17, 18 years old, and maybe had a better chance of landing in one of those bands that got a lift up. It's hard to say because we're all different people. And I'm different than I know some of the guys that were in some of those bigger bands. I'm a different person. I operate different from them. And, but, that is the reality of learning. You don't have to be in school to learn. You don't have to be a doctorate in music or even a graduate in guitar studies. Although, hey, it'd be nice, and I would not thumb my nose up at it if this channel blows up one day and my buddy at USC goes, hey man, we're going to give you an honorary degree or something. Man, that would be the most incredible experience in the world. And I encourage people to go to school. Don't do what I did, because here's the other thing. A doctorate or a master's or a degree in street, that is a very difficult road to hoe. And if I had had more elevated education, then I could have gotten into teaching in schools. I could have, gotten a college gig, kind of like, I guess, Rick Beato did at one time. But, for me, I took the knowledge that I needed from the schools that I went to, and the people that I learned from, and I learned just enough to be elevated enough to, impress people when I needed to impress them, play the right parts, learn how to, figure out parts on a record, learn how to, read chord charts, because that was to me more important than sight reading single notes. If someone put a chord chart in front of me, I could understand what I need to play over these chords if I have to solo, and I can comp and back, a melody or a soloist, and then learning how to create parts. That's another thing. Nobody taught me in GIT how to come up with guitar parts for songs. Nobody taught you how to write riffs. No, I did take a course in songwriting, and perhaps I'll do an episode on that, because I did learn some things about that could be helpful for people out there. But for the most part, man, all of that, a lot of that stuff I had to learn on my own. And man, the first time I did a session in Nashville playing, on somebody's stuff who just played cowboy chords, man, I was a fish out of water, because I'd come from LA, where I write a killer riff and the singer dude comes in and writes totally awesome lyrics, and I come up with a totally bitchin' solo, and there's our amazing tune, and it doesn't sound like anything else, and it's a cool, unique song, and we've got this amazing thing. But what do you do when the song is based around cowboy chords, and the demo is a guy just strumming and filling every space? These are things I had to learn the hard way. First couple of times doing it, I was like, he's not leaving any space in the song. What is going on? And then when I realized that I just needed to ignore that and then just look at the chords and come up with a cool part, then I was able to do it and understand what those Nashville session guys do. They take very ordinary chord changes, sometimes repetitive chord changes that they end up playing all the time, and come up with cool little unique parts to make it sound good. Just make it sound good. And, a lot of those guys got street doctorates too, because they don't teach you those things in college. They don't teach you, maybe they do now. But when I went to college, it wasn't like Nashville 101. Now, look, at GIT, they had a country class. I took the country class. I took the jazz class. I took the blues class. I took the jazz and, fusion, all that stuff, because I wanted to learn, how to do a little bit of everything, because music is always changing. And you have to be prepared when the bottom gets dropped out on whatever style that is the flavor of the day that you think is going to be here forever. It's not. It's not. It's always changing. It's always evolving. And that's another thing that you can learn, whether you're educated or not. You learn that music changes, and you need to be able to change with it. And you figure out ways to do it, playing with different people, being in different playing situations, dealing with difficult players, dealing with timid players, dealing with putting bands together for artists. These are all things that I learned outside of school. And it's an incredible thing to think back of all the things that I've learned over the years. It's why I'm able to create videos like this, just pure stream of consciousness, because of that doctorate of the streets. Now I'm able to pass my knowledge and share my knowledge with you. But if there's some lessons that you've learned from just being out there doing it, I would love to hear them in the comments. Man, thank you so much for giving me this platform and listening to this message today. And you know what? I'll see you on the next one.